anything on the top of your desk that's going to distract you in any way, shape, or form, go ahead and put that away. Cell phones, all that sort of stuff. I know at this point in the quarter we've heard lots of speeches, and it's easy to just distract yourself away from really what's going on. And I don't want that to happen. All right, Josh, you're on.
It's a Tuesday morning, October 30th. I walk into my Comms 101 class. Professor Trutch walks in, saying that she posted our assigned speech dates for speech round number 2. So I check online, and I say I don't have it till November 6th. So I tell myself I have a week ahead, I have plenty of time to work on it. I'll just work on it the next day. So the next day comes, and I'm laying on my bed doing nothing productive, and I say, I should probably work on my speech. But I was like, nah, I have plenty of time, I'll just do it the next time. See, the problem is, that happened the next day, and the day after that, all the way to Monday night, where I worked on it for 6 hours straight and only got 4 hours of sleep. Now, is that story true? Maybe, I don't know. That's not the point. The topic is, I want to talk about procrastination. Now, I think procrastination is one of the biggest problems in colleges, and especially in high school and college students today, because it's something that we've all experienced or done. Now, before I get into it, the definition of procrastination: a behavior or act of needlessly delaying a task that usually produces feelings of discomfort. Sound familiar? Now, I think it's the biggest problem because of 3 reasons: a lack of motivation, a lack of self-control, and a lack of self-efficacy. But we don't realize how easily these 3 problems can easily be fixed. Now, one of the reasons why procrastination occurs is because of a lack of motivation, or task averseness, we say. Task averseness is something when students have to do something that isn't enjoyable. The word averse itself literally means to dislike or oppose something that we have to do. So it has to do with dislike and laziness for task averseness. Let's be honest, most of the time during school, we don't like doing the assignments we're assigned to do. And the more adverse the assignment is, the more likely we're to procrastinate. Because it is our nature to avoid things that we don't like. From personal experience, I hate writing essays. And so I end up watching memes and videos on Twitter the whole time instead of working on my paper. Now, procrastination also do more with psychological and behavioral factors, including self-control. College students, especially first years, struggle with self-control since it's a completely different learning environment than high school. College is a new and fun experience for everyone, but can easily be a major distraction. We're still adjusting to a different lifestyle. Now, a study was shown how third years actually tend to procrastinate more than freshmen, which means as years later go on, we're going to procrastinate even more. And that's because third years are an important stage in life where they're basically surviving college and looking for future jobs. A study was also shown that males tend to procrastinate more than females. That's because females are more likely to experience negative emotions, but also have self-control and time management strategies. So basically, females have it together. Now, a lack of self-control is something where instead of spreading out our time, instead of spreading out our time for studying for a midterm or doing an assignment, we wait to the end or procrastinate. From personal experience, one time I had a midterm, I decided to play basketball the night before. In a study by the PR Newswire in 2014, stats show out of 1,300 students, 87% chose to procrastinate. And out of that 45% people, out of 87%, they negatively affected their GPA. And that 48% who procrastinated because they didn't even know where to start. Now, procrastinators struggle with organizational ability, self-regulation, and making decisions for themselves. And college is the ultimate test since we're independent. And that some of the negative consequences are self-deprecation, embarrassment, guilt, sense of fraudulence, tension, panic, and anxiety. Studies also show that students who don't procrastinate are more focused and goal-oriented. Now, the other reason is called lack of self-efficacy. And there's a difference between self-efficacy and self-control. Self-efficacy has to do more with behavioral problems than situational. Self-efficacy is an individual's judgment of how well he or she can perform certain behaviors in specific situations. Procrastination and self-efficacy have an inverse relationship. The more you lack, the more you procrastinate. Now, there's 2 parts to self-efficacy: efficacy expectations and outcome expectations. Both is like a fake and then a reality. Efficacy expectations are beliefs about one's capabilities to accomplish specific tasks. So an example is, oh, I'm going to finish this paper before midnight. That's the goal. But the outcome is a reality, where it's the likelihood that will result in certain behaviors, which is I'm pulling an all-nighter. Now there's two behavioral parts to this, shame and self-handicapping. These are two biggest reasons why people tend to procrastinate, because they feel guilty and anxiety, which creates excuses for themselves to be distracted. This allows them to avoid work, which ends up to being procrastination. Now, a study was performed where 72 college students were told to write an essay on public versus private education. Half the students had to turn it into half the students had to turn it in and perform it to a bunch of high school students, while the other just had to write it down and it was be printed on a newspaper. Now, the study was seeing who would procrastinate more, and the students who had to perform it in front of high school people said they procrastinated more because they were worried of self-imagery and being viewed positively, while the other just procrastinated because they underestimated the time they had. Now, how does this relate to the shame and self-handicapping? Well, the students who were worried about their self-imagery became more anxious and shameful and putting down on themselves since they procrastinated more. Now, procrastination is a huge problem. So how do we fix it? Well, honestly, the solution is just doing the little things right and taking the easy steps as all you need to do. Some things you can do is create a to-do list with specific deadlines. Set aside your time for work. Tackle the hard stuff first. Do one thing at a time. Reward yourself with breaks. The range of students who procrastinate goes from 22% to 95%. So there's an 8 out of 10 chance you'll most likely procrastinate on an assignment. There's nothing but negative consequences of procrastination. So why do we keep doing it? Procrastination negatively affects our GPA, and GPA is one of the most important things in college today. Even though there may be short-term benefits of procrastinating, like playing basketball, hanging out with your friends, or just going on your phone, it eventually has long-term costs. So I want you guys to self-reflect and think about when the time I procrastinated, how I could time manage my schedule better, because that's what we need to do in college. Responsibility. Thank you.
Okay. Josh.